I'm here, very transparent. I have interns. Here.
I can't believe that.
With that, his dressing shirt.
Why am I supposed to put a microphone on, Gar?
Because we're doing an interview.
Who is?
You are Jay Inslee.
He's waiting for you.
Sure.
He's going to ask you to be part of the
You know-
transition team.
I was trying to think what would be worse,
Peter, you're eternal.
or interview with James.
Come on, you old goat. Let's go.
I need my coffee. Do I need my
Fix
cell phone?
yourself up. Come on.
I need my cell phone.
Huh?
Hello, Randall.
Good job, Liz.
I got a story for you. You can't go out.
Okay, that's great. That's great. Where do you want me to go, Gary?
Go home.
Everett?
That's right.
Fire?
Congrats, Brian.
Greetings.
That's awesome, buddy.
I was perfectly willing to go wherever Gary wanted to send
We
me.
know, but today, no.
I get to do a story, though, don't I?
Yes. Whatever story you want to do. I made that deal with you, remember?
Yeah, okay.
You call it today.
Which part of the state would you like me to go to? Hey! Hello, Animal. Hello, William.
Congratulations.
Terry.
Bryan Johnson, nice to
Harry.
see you.
Good Lord. They're all back.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Oh, my God.
You bet.
You're using Ward still?
We're here, yeah.
Aren't you using Gisa?
Yeah. Hey, Brian.
Hi, Tom.
You did show up.
Don't know me, I'm Jay's wife.
Hello, Howard.
You got a
Harvard smut.
Hey.
Diverse Englishman, this is the day here for you.
Yeah, really.
Hey, Jay.
See, Peg, I did know. You know what happened when I showed up at the front door?
The
The badge didn't work.
Yeah, great.
You thought they turned it off already?
Yeah, and I was ready to turn around and go home.
You wanted to.
I did. I don't know how many of you know how I came to this station. I never applied, and I think I had been here 52 years, or no, let's see, 45 years, when somebody came to me and said, "Congratulations on your 40th." And I said, "What?" And they said, "Well, our application from you is dated in 1964. And I said, "Well, you go to the basement, you check the old records, you look at the old payrolls, and you'll see I started here in October of 1959. They did, and I did. What happened was a boss of mine by the name of Joe Chidle decided that I needed to go to the University of Washington. He brought a tape of me up from another station, handed it to the station manager here, and that guy hired me, sight unseen. And I did not apply officially until 5 years later, which I don't think would happen anymore. But the reason I bring that up is when I first met with John Benke, who was then the radio station manager, and Bill Warren, who was the president of KOMO, they told me, "You don't just join the Fisher family, you marry us." I guess I celebrated my golden wedding anniversary, and now the question is it a divorce, a trial separation, or what it is? But I have to share a few things about people I've worked with. And I saw Steve Rameli when I walked in, and I said, "Did you bring your camera?" And he said, "I've been at work since 5:30. What do you mean, did I bring my camera?" And then the look came over his face because he had promised that I would never tell this until the day that I retired. We were heading to Wenatchee for a story on the installation of fiber optics. And we were at the top of Snoqualmie Pass. And Steve stopped and said, "I've got to check something." He got out of the car, went to the back, and said, "I don't have my camera." He called Mary and asked Mary to bring him the camera, and we would meet her at the top of the pass. And we did. And the station was none the wiser, although the story on fiber optics was never done. Because as we came off Snoqualmie Pass and reached Blewett Pass, I looked over and said, "Steve, what's that?" "There's a building on fire." It turned out to be the oldest Grange in Washington State, ready to celebrate its 100th anniversary that weekend, and it was in flames. We stopped, we shot that, we sent it back. The station was delighted, and I never had to report that Steve left his camera behind. Until today. Among other things I'll remember is somebody who's not here, Kevin Kelly, who taught me that there is an interstate that runs right through Seattle. He called it I-40, and he could get from the University District to Ballard using I-40 in probably 3.5 minutes. We never got stopped, but the speedometer sometimes hit 70 on I-40. And, you know, back in the old days, Enrique Cerna, I don't know if you saw what was done on Channel 9. When I hired him, he was Henry. Jorge would have been George. At that time, we just didn't like ethnic names. This place has changed a lot. The faces have changed a lot. Barbara Stinson was one of the first women in broadcasting, and I hired her back in about 1963 or 64. You could look out at an audience like this, you wouldn't see the female faces, except for anchors and maybe a weather bunny. Now, women are a very, very important part of the operation. So is everybody here. Rob talked about an institutional memory. Well, maybe I do have that, but the business is changing, and I'm very confident to leave it in the hands of those who are here now, because you'll have the institutional memory in 5 or 10 years if you last that long. 50 years is a long time to have been at any place. I've probably been through a dozen news directors, half a dozen station managers, seen a lot of people go. But Seattle's a great place to be, and this group's a great group to work with, and it has been in the past, it is now, and it will be in the future if I come back freelance. And I hope... I said if.
No if. When?
Okay, when. Anyway, I'll give it back to Holly, see if she's got that fixed. I was born right on the English-Welsh border.
Oh, wow.
And I came over here when I was about 13 and became a citizen as soon as I could. Well, within 4 or 5 months of when I could. And then have worked in radio and television for 58 years.
Wow.
53 of them at KOMO.
Bryan somehow gets the best or the weirdest sound bites, and he just can't wait to come back and show it to you. He also has the best giggle when he is showing it to you.
And he never loses that excitement, that twinkle in his eye when he gets the great little soundbite or writes that line that he's so proud of. He just loves what he does, and that's an inspiration.
Tall, handsome, walking encyclopedia, knows everything. You could probably walk up to Bryan right now and ask him what the tax rate was in 1977, and he'll know what it is.
Bryan?
Hold on.
No, not
Just what
now.
was it?
No, not now.
You know what the tax rate in 1977 was?
I can't even hear you. I'm doing a story.
Okay.
He got into the business in 1955, a little radio station in Centralia. He came to KOMO in October of 1959.
Bryan Johnson, ABC affiliate, KOMO, Seattle.
Bryan Johnson has been there, done that.
Obviously, our health and welfare must be protected against the harmful dirt.
And then done it again and again.
That's the top of the news from throughout the Pacific Northwest.
For more than 5 decades.
They can't just say cool it, can they?
You're never going to be evasive with Bryan because he doesn't give you a chance to do that.
Why should I? Why should I ask a politician an easy question? I am not his lackey. I'm not his flunky.
And the toughest questions he has always saved for himself.
Every day you go back, you look at the story you write, and you look for any trace of bias, any trace of cynicism, any trace of something that shouldn't be there, and try and wipe it out.
He is a smart man, to be sure.
Well, Romanian is not. Romanians are a man's language.
Right.
They wrote it in the Cyrillic alphabet.
He always knew more than everybody else. He always knew more than the people he was questioning. He just had to get answers from them just to fill out his story. And he watched them cringe when he knew more than that they were going to answer.
And in the course of a career that can only be described as epic, his brains helped make him good.
The guy's smarter than anybody I've ever met in my life. He knows more about everything than anybody, from politics to European history to gourmet cooking.
Let's take a check on sports with KOMO Sports Director Bob Rondo.
And his gifts, the way with words, the booming voice, the impeccable memory for detail, didn't hurt.
And things happened at the last minute. I mean, really the last minute, down to the wire. And within literally, I think it was like 10 minutes before airtime, this all happened, Bryan Johnson stands up and stands in front of the camera, and just off the top of his head, word perfect, went through the entire report telling everybody exactly what had happened. And I was just stunned. I just sat there and said, oh my God.
For in the present case, it seems to me.
But his approach, his zeal, his zest for this hard-scrabble business, his joy, a kind of childlike wonder at it all, that's what made him great.
I'm, again, an honest searcher for wisdom and truth.
Even after 53 years, he attacked his stories with those 2 dancing fingers of his like some cub reporter on his first assignment.
I'm going to see if Lizzie will let me get away with it. Yeah.
This man is not a reporter. In these parts, he is the reporter.
I think that's great. I think it's really creative.
He's constantly amazed me at what he knows and what he can do without anybody else having any idea how he's doing it.
Bryan was sitting in front of a microphone the day that Kennedy was killed.
Governor Rosalini of the state of Washington has this reaction to today's tragic news of President Kennedy's assassination.
He was in a helicopter above St. Helens the day it blew.
But above that level, there is just one tremendous plume of ash and steam rising and bubbling up.
He respected broadcasting, lived it, and mostly he loved it. He loved the business as much as we loved him.
If you don't get a charge out of what you're doing, you shouldn't do it.
He is a man of quirks and eccentricities.
They say the air around here is so smoky, it's not safe for people over 65. 65? I'm out of here. The story coming up. Work is a circus, and I'm stuck in the freak tent. The question is, am I the chief clown or the ringmaster?
You're a combination of the two, you know that, right?
Yeah, I do. If I get whooping cough, it'll probably show up as just a cold, but I could give a fatal illness to a grandchild, so put one of these on. Whoops. That was funny. So if I'm around a grandkid, well, I'd better put on one of these. I did it again.
One of my favorite stand-ups was when he was covering a drunk driving case where the man had been pulled over by the state patrol, and he didn't have much video. He had to figure out a way to creatively tell it.
You heard right. Tim didn't even say, "Hello, Oshrifer." He just picked up his bag, took a drink, and bit into him.
The defendant just took off from courtroom floor and raced out the back door with people in pursuit.
So Kevin's gonna see, this is like, how well do you know Bryan Johnson? I'm the producer, I call you on the phone, you pick up the phone and you say,
How may you hinder me?
He told us the same jokes.
Bryan, how are you doing?
I am marginal.
And the same lines.
I tell you we're gonna send you to Ocean Shores.
Open sores?
Over and over like he was telling him for the first time.
I tell you need to cut down your package. What do you call me?
You are the reducer.
The reducer.
BJ, how's your story going? I don't have squat. Well, have you gone out and maybe talked to some people? The people don't care about this story. No one cares about this story.
And so it has gone for 53 years.
Bryan Johnson, KOMO 4 News. I'm Bryan Johnson, and you're not. I'm Bryan Johnson. I love him. I love him.
What are you doing, KOMO?
If you believe that Kathy Gertson was the heart of our newsroom and that Bob Thronson was the conscience, perhaps now at last we can say that BJ was the spirit of the KOMO newsroom.
And over the years, how would you say that things have, I mean, what's the biggest...
You were born.
A few years ago, I asked him how he would end his own career story if he was writing it. He answered like this.
I don't know how my career will end, so I don't know how the story ends.
Well, now we know. The story ends with a master leaving at the top of his game, admired, loved, and respected.
I think about all the stuff that we have to do as reporters out there in the muck and the mire and everything else, and there he is doing it too. And I say, how can I ever go home and feel like I'm exhausted when BJ is right there with us in the trenches, doing the same stuff we are, and kicking butt like everybody else, and just knocking it out of the park every day. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And so we search for words to describe this hero of all of ours. There are lots of words, but maybe on this occasion these three will suffice. Irrepressible.
Oh man, he's an icon. I was back in college and he came to my university and spoke, and I was just in awe of him then. That was 30-something years ago.
Boy, you are something else.
Hello, Norman.
Unforgettable.
I don't know what we're going to do without him. It's a puzzlement. It's going to be really, really, really tough.
Undisputably, utterly, unimaginably irreplaceable.
Yeah, he is irreplaceable. I don't want to start crying. I'm going to miss him. I've known him since the radio days.
No, it won't be the same in this newsroom without him.
You gonna miss him around here?
Yeah, I think everybody will. I don't know what we're gonna do without him.
He's just, they don't make him like that anymore. You know, he's a true journalist. He is knowledgeable about everything. He's passionate. He's ethical. And they just don't make him like that anymore.
This business, it doesn't feel like a job. Every single day, you meet people. People are different. You write about people. Is that a job?
No, Bryan, it's not. And for some people, the lucky ones, it never has been.
I'm Bryan Johnson.
Bryan Johnson. Bryan Johnson, KOMO 4 News. I'm out of here. Thank you, Joe. We're 30 minutes late for the story meeting.
You care more than I do. I think that's everything. Please stay up here. He doesn't have to be in the story meeting, and don't let him try to fool you. And enjoy the donuts and Bryan's company. He is reporting, so today we've got to figure out how he's going to end his career, which story that will be.
I thought I was going to interview Inslee.
That was a lie. Thank you, Bryan. I'm going to hug you. Nobody else is hugging you. Okay.